Welcome back to the Voracious Podcast family. Thank you guys so much for staying with me. Thank you for all the support. Thank you for checking in. In today's topic, we're going to talk about the sound of rebellion. Why the devil is everywhere in the music industry. Maybe that was a little dramatic, but I figure put a smile on your face, hopefully. So today, that's exactly what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about why the devil is in the music industry. Why do we believe that the devil exists in the music industry? We don't say anything about medications. We don't say anything about the doctor's office. We don't say anything about any other industry other than the music industry, that the devil is so evident and prevalent. But we're going to hopefully break it down for you today and kind of discuss some of the reasons why we believe that the devil is in the music industry. Today is going to be thought-provoking. It's a spiritual, cultural, grounded. Hopefully we're seeking for some answers from spiritual seekers, some artists, skeptics, believers, and even some creatives. The question people keep asking quietly, loudly, and sometimes fearfully is, why does the devil always so often appear in the music industry? If you guys have seen the performances of the Grammys, if we have seen some of the tattoos of some of the major artists in the record labels, if we have heard of names like Little Uzi Vert, which some people have so eloquently broken down and said that it means Lucifer, take it as a grain of salt. But those are some of the things that we're going to focus on today. Why is it so heavily supported? Why do we see so much imagery? Why does the devil so often appear in the music industry? We've seen him from album covers to award shows to lyrics, visual hand signs, and alter ego personas. One of the things I'll point out to you guys that we often see inside this music industry is that we will notice that once artists get famous, they will have this light that is inside of them. And though this is only for people who are spiritual, this message is only for people who have discernment. If you are not a spiritual person, if you do not believe in good and evil, if you do not believe that there is something greater than ourselves that is guiding us or that has created us, and I don't mean aliens, I'm talking about something way bigger, the Alpha and the Omega, it will be hard for you to understand this podcast. You will not see some of the imageries, or you will not understand some of the references that I talk about. So if you ever notice when artists first join the industry, there's a light inside of them. Let's take Britney Spears, for instance. Britney Spears was a phenomenon. I don't listen to her music. I'm not going to even cap or pretend like I listen to her music. But she was a phenomenon in her own right. She had one of the largest followings of young women, young men even too, that followed her, that loved her music. She got on stage and she lit the stage up. She was well loved. She seemed wholesome. She seemed very well put together. And then the music industry got a hold of her. Do you think it's a coincidence that now we see a total different version of Britney Spears? This young lady has deteriorated horribly due to this music industry. And that's what I firmly believe it is. That's probably one of, if not one of the many examples I can give of someone who came into the music industry with such a bright light. And now they're in the music industry and it seems like they've had a lobotomy. Like her brain is fried. Her mental health is no longer healthy. I've seen videos of her dancing, unfortunately, inappropriately, without any clothes on, in the nude. Let's just call it what it is. You can see her dancing in the nude in some of her videos. Obviously, they'll blur out certain areas, but you can see the light in her eyes has diminished. It looks dark. It looks void. It almost looks like her soul has been removed. Do you think, the Voracious Podcast, my audience, I'm talking to you, do you believe that the devil or some darkness has overcome this young lady? Or do you believe that it's some form of mental health that has just really taken her down a dark road? This isn't for shock value or something deeper. Tonight, we're not here to panic. We're here to understand. We're going to break this down from a religious belief, from a biblical symbolism, from psychology, power structures, artist rebellion, and the ancient idea that music itself is spiritual. For anybody that knows, that grew up in the church, I was a young man that grew up in the church in South Carolina. Grew up in the church, Triumph Church. Shout out to Triumph Church and my grandmother, Dorothy, who has since left us and gone on to be with the Lord. But we grew up in church. My brother and I, my mom would always take us. And it's so crazy because as a little kid getting up, 6, 7 years old, maybe even 5 years old, I can remember times, you're just sleeping. When you're a kid, you're just like knocked out. And I can remember my mom coming into the room on Sunday, gospel music blasting. Okay, come on, time to get up. We got to go to church. And we would go to my grandmother's home. We would go to her house, Nana. We called her Nana. We would go to Nana's house and we would have church there until we found Triumph Church located in Greenville, South Carolina. And hopefully there's still some parishioners out there. If you know someone from Greenville or Triumph Church that existed back in the day, please drop it down below. I'd love to connect with you. But she would wake us up and we would go and I'd be dragging my feet. I'd be like in tears almost because you just want to go to sleep on a Sunday. But I am so grateful for the opportunity and what my grandmother, my mom, and my aunts instilled in me through the Lord. And I think that has been an invaluable resource that has kept me through these most difficult times. But I don't want to make this about me. That's just a little background. I think that's important. So it's not about accusing artists. We're not here to accuse artists. It's about what we see in the imagery that exists at all. Is this just in our mind or is this the imagery that we see? Part 1, the claim Satan was in charge of music in heaven. How many people have heard that before? How many people have heard that? I've heard that quite often, and it's in the Bible. We do have passages that we can look up and we'll hopefully lock in some of those passages, but we have heard that Satan was the cherub. Satan was the choir director. Satan was, he had diamond vocal cords that was, so beautiful and so angelic. And I believe that might have been how Satan was able to woo or convince the other angels to follow him was through music. Almost reminds me of the Pied Piper for those that know that story. So let's start with the belief that fuels most of the conversation, the theological root. This is the root now. This is getting good, so stay with me. So it says many people point to Lucifer often associated with beauty. Think about the music industry now when we're going through this. Think about it. We associate the music industry with beauty and Satan. We associate the music industry with light. We think about Satan the same way, right? He was, according to the biblical studies, that Satan was God's right-hand man. We associate Satan with sound. Think of the music industry. And we associate Satan with perfection, which we know that can be it's not one of the 7 deadly sins, but we know if you believe in perfection, oftentimes you never find it and it becomes your downfall. Because if you're expecting to be perfect in this world, then I think you are already on the wrong track. Verses commonly cited, interpretive, not explicit. Ezekiel 28, Isaiah 14. Those are 2 Bible verses that you can look up, and I'll post them here on the screen so that way you can take a look at those Bible verses. I don't know them off the top of my head. Shame on me, but those are 2 Bible verses that we know are indicative or, I'm just looking here, indicative or telling of the actual story of Satan. Some theologians interpret descriptions like crafted with timbrels and pipes, an anointed cherub, which we talked about, full of wisdom and beauty, and symbolic language. Not just a title, but over time, this evolved into the idea that Lucifer had authority connected to music, worship, and sound. So we've often known that Satan was an anointed cherub. We know that, and we know that Satan was full of wisdom and beauty. These are all characteristics of the music industry. Think of how the music industry looks. Think of who's in the music industry. Think of what we revel about the people that are in the music industry, from the beauty of Beyonce to Madonna to Aerosmith to you name it, groups like Stain, Jay-Z. I'm into hip hop a lot, so you may hear me reference hip hop artists, but I don't think it's just been relegated to just black artists, because that seems to be the narrative now here in America, is that we're only focused on the satanic part of music because black artists have risen to the top of it, versus thinking that if Satan was in charge of music, he's been around for many, many years, thinking about some of the artists that have done just some of the crazy things, such as Marilyn Manson, Ozzy Osbourne, like people biting heads off of chickens on stage. So Satan just didn't come around now in the hip hop industry. I want to make that clear. I want to preference that. So as a symbolic language, not a job title, but over time, this evolved into the idea that Satan had authority connected to music worship or sound. Think about that. That he just had the idea or the authority that when God banished him to this earth, and I'm no theologian about the Bible, so I don't know if that's necessarily my best avenue, but what I will say is I have an opinion about it, that when he was banished here to earth with some of the other angels that left heaven, he took one of the major skills that he knew would entice man the most: greed, wealth, music, lust, gluttony, all these different things that he knew would help entice man into the music industry seem to be prevalent today. Now, this is for important clarity. The Bible does not explicitly say Satan ran music in heaven. This is an interpretation and tradition, not stated doctrine. But beliefs matter because beliefs shape culture. This is something we've heard for a long time. Even if you guys remember the movie Crossroads, you remember that movie with Ralph Macchio and a couple other well-known artists in there. I love that movie. Really great movie. For those that don't know, the Crossroads was about a young man who wanted to play the blues. Ralph Macchio wanted to play the blues, and he heard about a story about a guy who went to the Crossroads and sold his soul to the devil in order to learn how to play the blues and become the greatest blues players of all times. So he befriends an older black gentleman who I can't think of his name, my apologies, but he befriends an older black harmonica player. They go on this long travel to go to the Crossroads to where they can meet Satan. So that way the old black man who did sell his soul can can reverse that deal and hopefully allow this young man to play the blues. Great show, great movie. But it's interesting that that would even be a particular topic, because there are some people here on this earth that seem to get some really wild favor, and we don't know how they got the wild favor or what really led to it. But long story short, he winds up battling one of the devil's minions inside of the show Crossroads, and he defeats the devil. God is triumphant. Yay! God is triumphant. So, all right, let's get back into it. But if you haven't seen the movie, go check out the movie, The Crossroads. It's a great movie. So why music is seen as a spiritual power. I want to say this before we even get into segment 2 here. This is segment 2. Why music is seen as a spiritual power. This is for my spiritual people. Have you ever sung a gospel song early in the morning? Have you ever sung a gospel song early in the morning? Think about that. Think about how it makes you feel. Think about how you start your day off listening to gospel music versus listening to Cardi B or some type of twerking or trap music or some light them up, do this, do that, sell these drugs and all this craziness. Think about how it sets your day off. If you've ever been in a spiritual temple, church, meditation, whatever the case is, you know that the feeling that you get being surrounded by like-minded people who are in harmony with each other, there's a certain feeling behind it. If you trust your feeling versus your sight, then you're in the right place. Why music is seen as a spiritual power. Again, part 2. Across civilizations, music has never been neutral. It's never been neutral. It's in every culture that we know music plays a major role in how that society operates and acts. Every culture agrees on one thing. Music alters your mood. It alters the emotion. It alters the behavior. It alters your memory. It alters your identity. These are all things that music alters. It alters all these different areas of your life. When you think about it, think about some music. Next time you're driving to work, put on something that gets you hyped up. Put on a song that gets you really hyped up and get you really moving. Put that on and see how you drive. Or put on Pastor Troy. I like Pastor Troy. Vice versa. Ain't no more playing GA for my people that know, you know. Put that on and see what it does to you and how your mindset shifts, how you may conduct yourself out in public, how your vibrato may change, how you may become more emboldened. And don't be consuming spirits on top of it. If you're consuming spirits on top of that behavior or doing some other things that influence your spirit and your mind and your body on top of listening to what's deemed to be negative or violent music, it will definitely change your mood, emotion, behavior, sometimes your memory and your identity. In religious texts, music brings people closer to God. we know that music has brought people closer to God. If you've ever cried during a spiritual song or a gospel song that's been played, if you've heard the old school gospel song of how excellent God is, then you know deep down inside that there is something to those words. There is a level of belief that you can't really get people who aren't spiritual to understand. And I think that's something that it's okay. Everybody has to find their own way. But there are times that you will experience things during spiritual moments or through music or spiritual music that will affect how you feel. Music brings people closer to God. Music drives out spirits. We've heard that too. If you sing songs, some people get irritated or some people just can't sit in the midst of certain types of music. Even if you have someone like a grandmother or mom or parent or friend who really believes in God or is very holy or who not very, very holy. I'm not going to, I don't want to get into all of that to say people are very holy, but people that have a deep belief in something greater than themselves. Some people can't sit amongst them or can't be in that environment or refuse to participate in it just because it may irritate their spirit. Music prepares people for battle. It does, right? It does prepare people for battle. Look at our boxers, who they come out to. They're coming out to people like 50 Cent. They're walking out to begin boxing to people like with Lil Wayne rapping lyrics. Why would you choose him and not choose Taylor Swift to come out to? Why would you choose 50 Cent over a Janet Jackson? Because it's preparing you for battle. The music is truly powerful. Even if you remember back in the Roman days when wars were being started and they would play the trumpets, right? And the great trumpets would sound and all the soldiers would gather. And you see it in the shows. You can watch it in shows such as Gladiator, another great movie with Russell Crowe. You can go up there and see shows like that when they actually begin blowing the trumpets and sounding the horns and people were beginning prepared for battle. Music opens up an emotional state. It does. It's a gateway. It opens up an emotional state from church hymns to tribal drums to war chants to love songs. The Vikings always sang songs. Pirates always sang songs. African people of different tribes always sing songs. Americans sing songs together. We have the national anthem, right? It's almost like a war chant for those who live in America to let people know how great America is. But that's for another podcast. Music bypasses logic and speaks directly to the soul. It can. It literally can infect how your soul is operating and what you feel, think, and believe at that very moment. Sometimes you can listen to certain songs and break down crying based on an experience you had while that music was relevant in your life. That's how powerful music is. That's why we often try to inform people who are dealing with things such as addiction to be conscious of the music that you're pouring into, because music can be triggering to have someone to want to go back and use. For people that have dealt with addiction issues, then you know that it's something that people will potentially go back and use because a song has triggered them to feel a certain way. That's why religion guards music carefully. And that's why it guards it carefully. Governments use music for propaganda. Revolutions have soundtracks. And if you want to symbolize rebellion, ego, excess, or power, music would be the perfect medium. One of my favorite songs is We Will Rock You. You ever been in a stadium, a gym, some loud auditorium, and the entire audience begins singing that? You can take down a Trojan horse. You can you can overthrow Rome. If that song comes on, that song does something to you, and you can't tell me it doesn't. I don't care whether you like rock and roll or not. There's something about a vibration of everybody singing one song together and how powerful that can be and how amped up people can be. Part 3, the devil as a symbol, not just being. This is the symbolism in music that we see a lot of times that people aren't often conscious of. Here's what most conversations go wrong. The devil is often treated as a red creature with horns, a literal manager pulling the strings. That's what we think. That's what history has taught us. They've kind of made the devil seem like he's this character, but I think he's way more cunning if you believe in the devil. He's way more cunning than what people know, and there's not really a face you can put to him. But I know throughout history in different movies, people have utilized that imagery. Devil with horns, and he has these sharp teeth and these dark black eyes and these long fingers, and he's coming to get you. I think he's way more charismatic than that. I think he's going to use whatever tools he can in order to influence whomever he needs to influence. And if you desire wealth and riches, then he's going to take it there with you. But culturally, the devil is an archetype. He represents rebellion against authority, pride, ego, excess, temptation, self-worth, and power without humility. Those are the things he represents. And the young people such as Britney Spears that have gotten into the music industry, the young men who've gotten into the music industry who used to be real masculine, very thuggish, they begin dressing a little different. We'll say that. They begin dressing a little different, and it has a different level of expression that they never shown while they were in the community. But when they get into the music industry, they seem to get a little bit more feminine. If you notice that trend, I'm not making this up to pick fun at a particular community of any kind, but I have to point out the truth. That's what this podcast is about. We're pointing out the truth. In other words, I answer to no one but myself. That's what the devil will make you feel. And when you begin working in that environment, you will only answer to no one but yourself. This message is extremely attractive in celebrity culture, fame culture, wealth culture, artistic expression, especially in industries built on attention, shock, dominance, and control. The level of darkness that has befallen the music industry and has overtly shown itself throughout history of how dark the music industry is. I've always wondered, why doesn't the music industry have any symbolism of angels? Is it not intriguing to see people with white feathers and floating through the stage and swinging from cables and things of that nature? But it seems to be very dark. If you've been watching some of the recent shows, you'll notice with Travis Scott having these huge portals behind them. They'll have these huge, massive portals located behind them, and you're like, something about that seems off. I don't. It's not even anything that you just rubs your spirit wrong. You're like, they couldn't choose anything else. Or you'll see fire, and you'll see people dancing in red outfits, or you'll see people dressed up as demons floating behind them. You're like, nobody could think of anything out of all the millions of dollars and production power people have. This is what they chose and continue to choose. I don't know. I'm not here to drive you one way or the other, but I just want to kind of open your eyes to at least what I'm seeing. Part 4, symbolism and imagery in the music industry. Let's talk about what people actually see. Common symbols, horns, you see it. Upside down crosses, very popular. You see them in people's earrings. I even think there was a time when Elon Musk was on the national stage and he was wearing a red outfit, like it was armor, suit of armor. And it was an upside down cross or either Baphomet on his chest or something like that. Red and black color palettes seem to be very popular. Snoop Dogg just did a special on Netflix where he's all dressed in red. When did red become so popular? I remember Diddy was dancing on stage. He had all red on. Diddy was wearing all red. There's a lot of things in there that's just very dark imagery, and it doesn't make sense. And I'm a child of the 70s. I won't go too deep into my age, but I'm a child of the 70s. And when you think of what really happened to the music industry, it just got more outwardly dark over time. We'll see imageries of snakes. Even when I'm online, and this is disturbing too, even when I'm online and I see young people, young women with snake tattoos on their bodies, I think that says a lot about who you really are. There's nothing about a snake that's ever been attractive to me. There's nothing about a snake that's ever been, oh, wow, that's such a amazing creature. A snake has such a dark imagery behind it. The way it hunts, it's stealthy, it's solitude, its ability to camouflage itself. It has just a lot of dark imagery around it. And for people to get that tattooed on their bodies, we'll see snake outfits. And I think one year Britney Spears was dancing with a snake. You guys remember that? Was that the VMAs? What awards was that? She was dancing with a snake. And I thought that was so crazy. Like, she had like a big boa constrictor around her neck and people thought it was so sexy. And, oh yeah, Britney, get it, girl. Get it, girl. Yeah, she's doing her thing. You got a snake around your neck. What kind of craziness is that? Are you like, do you hear yourself? Do you really believe dancing with a snake is attractive? But it went from there to just, it got progressively worse. People's eyes. There's a video I found some time online with Usher, and he was being interviewed. And someone asked him a question. I can't remember the question. And he said, he had this actual thing. He said, I'm going to play the clip for you. Watch this. He actually, his eyes look black. I was like, is that Usher? I was like, is that, you don't have to call? Is that him? Is that, oh, is this the same Usher? You got it bad, Usher? And eyes black like that? It look dark and demonic? I don't think that was by accident. Some people said he was acting, but it rubbed me the wrong way. Fire, crowns, altered egos, these symbols are not random. They communicate power, danger, dominance, rebellion, and I'm not like you. That's what it's about. Who doesn't want to be a rebel without a cause? Remember that? You growing up, the bad kid always had all the attention. He would fight, he would cuss, get kicked out of the classroom. Everybody knew who he was. Might have been a great football player, right? Because he had the level of violence or anger or skill that was inside of him that most people didn't have. That always make people stand out. Always doing something opposite from the rest of the crowd will make you stand out. But standing out isn't always a good thing, especially in certain arenas. Who wants to be known as the dark person, right? Who was that person that you went to high school with that was very dark, very goth? Where are they at now? I look at somebody like Marilyn Manson. Oh my God. I couldn't sit in a room with Marilyn Manson. I saw a video of him recently. I think he was on crutches or something like that, and he was performing somewhere, and I was just like, this dude is dark. Brother's real dark. I don't know. It was suspect to me, for sure. I couldn't, but he's just one character that comes to mind, not to call him out and be disrespectful, but it's the truth. I think he removed one of his ribs one time, and he's blood and painted white and pale. I don't know what people get out of it. But I know in marketing psychology, controversy equals attention, right? And that's just what a lot of people want in this life. People want the attention, and they're willing to do anything to get it. And I think if you choose dark imagery, or if you choose that dark magic lifestyle, you will get the desired attention you need a lot quicker than someone, let's say, here at the Voracious Podcast, which you should be subscribed to, which you should be taking notes and sharing with your friends and family and dropping comments down below. Shameless plug. But what you should be paying attention to, right? Because attention is money. And nowadays we live in a society now that the person with the most attention is probably making some type of money. May not be millions, but they are making some money. I choose to travel a different path, but because I know that quality will always overrule that immediate hit. So my road is a little longer, but my road is worth it. So stay encouraged if you're out there trying to start something new. So it says the devil imagery shocks, polarizes, and guarantees conversation. That doesn't mean artists worship Satan. It doesn't mean that they worship Satan or they're possessed or they're consciously evil. It often means they're using more powerful rebel symbols of humanity to get recognized. That's what that means. Part 5. Why artists adopt dark personas. Why do people adopt dark personas? What are they doing this for? People are adopting dark personas. Why artists adopt dark personas. Artists often create alter egos. Why? Because fame fractures identity, amplifies ego, disconnects people from reality. Dark personalities allow a person to express pain, express anger, and express a shadow self. Everybody has a shadow side. Everybody has, as you've heard people say before, you need to do some of that shadow work. We all have it. Psychologically, what we repress finds expression through art. Psychologically, what we repress finds expression through art. The devil becomes a container for rage, trauma, desire, and ambition. It's not always worship. Sometimes it's projection. Part 6. The real danger people miss. This is the real danger. Here's the part rarely discussed. The real danger isn't symbols. The real danger is in the loss of humanity, the worship of self, belief that success equals worth, belief that power is truth. That's the core warning that the devil's archetype in religious texts. Not fire, not horns, not rituals, but pride without grounding. That's the biggest thing I think people forget. People begin worshiping themselves, begin worshiping the almighty dollar. They show a lot of this devil imagery. They get the fast life, and they kind of forget where they came from. Oftentimes, these people fall from grace. Where's your favorite rapper now? 10 years from now, where will your favorite rapper be? That's what you need to ask yourself. If they're so powerful and so high and mighty, where will they be at? They're still successful? Are they still performing? They're still touring? Has their imagery gotten darker? Did they start off with light in their eyes? You can find a lot of videos on other platforms, and you will see people do videos on these young people just losing the light in their soul. So why the devil is so visible in the music industry? Because music is powerful, because rebellion sells, because ego thrives where attention flows, and because humanity has always told stories about power using symbols. The devil is in the sense, it isn't in a being. Sometimes he mirrors, and that's the question, isn't it? Who controls the music industry? The question is, what part of ourselves are we feeding when we consume it? Thanks for listening. Thank you for staying with the Voracious Podcast. I'd love to hear from you guys. Please like, share, and subscribe. You guys mean the most to me. I have some more great topics coming for you guys. We're going to keep pushing this here. In 2026, we're going to build it, and we're going to have millions of followers on the Voracious Podcast. Again, thank you for all your support, and I look forward to seeing you guys next time. Take care.